Hello and welcome to the Bear Cafe. This is Barely Caffeinated. Grab a cup of coffee or tea and take a seat. Let's talk about Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires. Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires takes the hack and slash base game of Dynasty Warriors and adds a new level of strategy by allowing you to manage your own kingdom and create your own officer, which is one of my personal favorites. In this review, we're going to talk about key areas such as gameplay, visuals, audio, enjoyment, and whether or not I think it's worth your time and money. Let's start with combat. Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires continues the combat system that was heavily critiqued in Dynasty Warriors 9. Basically, you have your typical light and heavy attack, along with some trigger attacks, and of course your beloved Musu attack. For me, and perhaps because of the nostalgia, miss the older system of combat. I found myself continuously mashing up the same combos. Stun, knock up, down attack, and then maybe some other flurries to spice it up a bit. I would rarely have to switch it up depending on situation or matchup. This obviously created some monotony during combat, and I found myself just trying to rush through the battles to get it over with. In addition, you could almost permanently stun lock most opponents, but I'm going to revisit this in a moment. As far as the attacks and animations and colors, I thought were clean enough to keep me going. I think what helped with the monotony of this is that you had the option to switch out your assigned weapon to try something else. And while I do appreciate this, I don't think I ever switched my weapon even once. I think that for me, the weapon is an identity of my character, just like all the other officers are. For example, Dian Wei would not be Dian Wei without his axe. Um, to me, I feel like I would have much rather seen a smithing or crafting system to create and upgrade the looks and feels of my weapon. But instead, Dynasty Warriors does this to an extent by offering up gems that you can switch every battle, which gives you different bonuses. But again, to me, it just didn't feel like enough. Now, I would like to revisit the opponents for a moment. There were some incredibly frustrating battles that didn't make much sense to me. Officers could instantly appear behind you and or near you and execute you, and I was only on hard. The morale troop character strength idea, I think, needs to be revisited. Here's how it works. The lower your group morale, the weaker your character, which I believe could be a cool idea to an extent, but I think this is a little busted. Especially when I can go from easily taking down one officer in the same battle to being unable to even touch another officer in that same battle. This started to happen to me near the middle and end of the game. I think I more appreciate things like in Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. My character is as strong as my character is, even without those troops. I think this is important in a hack and slash game like Dynasty Warriors, where, mind you, you never even get to see your own troops. Ever since I was a kid, I've wished that these Empire games would be more strategic, and something along the lines of you controlling a unit or you controlling different units on the battlefield as they move throughout. But that's not what is happening. Oftentimes, this game just feels like it's you against the world. I think Dynasty Warriors 9 tries to combat this a little bit by offering secret plans, which were things like starting fire in bases or tornadoes on the battlefield, which was pretty cool and it helps with the monotony a little bit. But oftentimes, having to execute these secret plans didn't make a lot of strategic sense. For example, I would have to move all the way across the castles and capture two bases on the opposite sides, even though the battles were happening in the middle and my teammates needed help there. But I still found that I had to go for those bases because if my secret plan wasn't executed and theirs was, it was game over. It didn't matter. I feel like I could spend a lot more time critiquing the combat system, but I do want to save some time to actually talk about the Empire system as too. As a common officer, you don't have much say in the War Council. In fact, you have none. I spent most of this time talking to the other officers, recruiting, and sucking up to Sun Jian, which, spoiler, he eventually did make me the king. I think I miss more in Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires, where you could go on quests for these people, and it felt like you actually created a relationship with that person. Whereas in Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires, you get to stroll around and you can talk to a person and then you can try to recruit them. And I would say 90% of the time I was able to talk and recruit whoever I wanted. There were a few people who, might disagree with your character's stats a little bit, and they might disagree with you being benevolent rather than evil. Um, but again, I would say 90% of the time I was still able to recruit those people within the first time. As a general and tactician, you finally get to have a say in the war council and you have the ability to invade another territory. So until you get to that point, you have to listen to Junjian, the general or the tactician, of whether or not you're going to invade in another territory, which I guess does make sense. But why not allow us to go out and do some missions while we're not at war? You know, For example, there are things where you can go sabotage another kingdom, and there is no battle for that. That's just one of the things that you command to happen. So why not make that into a little mini quest for us to do? Or why not allow us to go destroy the walls, which is also another thing, or go bribe an officer or something like that? Why not give us all these little mini quests that we can do to make the world around us seem more real and not just okay, rush to unite the three kingdoms and then you're done. Once you become the ruler of your kingdom, you get the option to expel officers or recruit more officers or alliances and things like that, which are fun. But it didn't really feel like there's a huge difference between general tactician and the ruler. For me, the empire system just felt pretty simplified, lackluster, and I think something that I also didn't enjoy is that it felt like you absolutely had to join a kingdom to do anything in the game. Sure, you could form a vagrant unit and go around, doing whatever, but you couldn't quests, or at least I didn't find that. And maybe I just missed it somehow, but I really miss on Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires where I could take a unit, go around taking on other quests, and then raising my relationship level with those people. Again, I feel like I could take up like 5 videos just talking about the gameplay alone of things that I liked and didn't like and critiquing. But for now, let's move on to our next area, which is visuals. A big reason of why I love the Empires games is that I get to create my own officer and honestly to create a plethora of others. To start this game, I just started with creating the crew myself, Boba, Blup, and Wolfbane. I loved that they offered a lot more sliders and customizations for the characters. I loved that the idea of clothing versus armor. You could have clothing underneath your armor and you can choose when to wear and things like that. I really, really enjoyed, and I definitely think they should keep going with that. I love that there are a lot more options to this than in the previous games, which again, to me, I feel like creating my own officer and plethora of other anime characters or movie characters in here kind of makes it feel like a completely different game. However, when it comes to the gameplay visuals and combat visuals and scenery, it looks like something that I could play off of my Nintendo Switch. And not that I don't love my Switch, but is that really the best we have? Again, there is an incredible opportunity to create a beautiful world, but it falls so, so short of being great. And don't even get me started on the pixelation of cutscenes. Weapon animations did seem fairly fluid and nice to me, and I appreciated that the gems added more visualization without being too much eye candy. But again, I do kind of wish that, we could have actually done more with the weapons instead. I think this is enough for visuals. Let's move on to audio. Okay, seriously, add dialogue examples for the officer voices when you are testing them in the creation stage. I could not stand my voice and Boba's voice throughout the entire campaign. Who seriously talks like that? Another complaint that I have is that voices and dialogue was very repetitive for all of the characters, created officers and the normal. Lastly, did I enjoy Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires? I'd have to say yes and no. There were times where I was like, oh, this is pretty cool and refreshing. Like the lightning spirit bear, that thing was pretty cool, even though it was a pain in the neck to take down. I thought it was really cool. A new feeling I had, which was not reminiscent of the older games, was I can't wait to just finish this battle, or I can't wait to just unite the kingdom. This was interrupted with things like a vagrant unit. I think I'll still play Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires again, just to see what a second playthrough has to offer, because maybe I just missed some things. But I do admit that I have fear that I will run and burn out. Do I think it's worth $60? While it pains me to say, I don't think that Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires is worth 60 USD. More and more it feels as if it should just be a $5, $10, $15 DLC to the base game. The monotonous combat and lackluster visuals led to burnout fairly quickly for me. And I hope that the Dynasty Warriors Empire games can receive a bit more love in the future. It just seems like a small addition to the Dynasty Warriors games, and I think it could be so much more than just that. In conclusion, I think the Empire game needs a little bit more attention. I believe it's way overpriced for what they're asking gameplay-wise. Visually, while I harped on it a lot, I do think this is the best looking Warriors game to date. The voices are incredibly repetitive, and some are very, very annoying. I would give Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires a 6 out of 10 cups of coffee. In my suggestion, I would probably use my money towards something else instead. If you would like to witness some gameplay, you can check out my videos here. If you have played Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires, let me know what you think about the game down below. And if you lasted until the end, your coffee's on the house. Have a great rest of your day.